As we described in the previous video, all animals exhibit cultural learning, but humans exhibit cultural learning in ways that are just out of control more than non-human animals. So the question a lot of researchers ask is, why is this true? So number one, we have big brains. Okay, great. Why do we have big brains? Well, number one, human beings tend to have a lot less muscle mass than primate relatives. Muscle takes a lot of calories to maintain. Human beings tend not to have very many muscles compared to other animals. Human beings have shorter intestines. Human beings have been cooking food for a long time. What cooking does is it breaks down the bonds and the proteins, makes it easier to digest, and therefore many more calories that enter the mouth get used, right? That actually get digested. And then the human brain just requires a lot more calories, and these two first two explain where they come from, where the extra calories. All right, so one of the interesting things is, humans got big brains. How big? They look at the encephalization quotient, which is the weight of the brain and how big it should be. Okay, and so you look at the brain weight compared to the body weight, and you see that human beings, where am I? Yeah, human beings are a huge outlier. So are dolphins, by the way. Huge outliers. Our brains are much larger than they should be. Okay? The human brain requires 20% of the energy consumed, other animals 1 to 3%. Our brain is 4.6 larger than other mammals. It's just way out of control where it's supposed to be. Okay? And there have been a variety of theories as to why this is true, which I will kind of show a little bit of graphics on. So why primates? Because it's not just humans. All primates have brains larger than they should compared to other mammals. Okay? So the first explanation is the idea that a lot of monkeys, or primates rather, use fruit in their diet. That fruit is their main source, and fruit requires a lot of brain power because you got to remember, where is the fruit, when was the last time it was ripe, how long has it been since I was at that tree, what is my physical distance between my current self and that tree. So it requires a lot of cognitive skills to consume fruits here. But yet, if you look at percent of fruit in diet and neocortex ratio, it's a correlation of zero. There's just no relationship. Some argue that a lot of primates rely on things like nuts, right? Because nuts are high in protein. High in protein means good for your brain. Okay, and so they looked at it and they called these the extraction of nuts by in particular chimpanzees and higher primates extractive, in that it requires the use of tools in this way. Okay, non-extractive foraging techniques means they just an animal just picks up the food and eats it rather than has to actually do something. Okay, and you can see here, though there's only two data points along the x-axis, it's pretty clearly again a correlation of zero here. Whew, gotcha. Here, what they did was they looked at the neocortex ratio and the average group size. Okay, that is the average number that you see together, and you can see pretty strong relationship here with human beings being that asterisk or star in the top right. That the average size of human social groups is around 150, and we have this large neocortex ratio. Pretty powerful idea that this 150 has been shown in many cases for human beings. So the average size of human groups is 150. So primates' brain evolution seems to be because of their highly social lifestyle. Because what's going to happen is that as you have larger social groups, if you have, three people in your social group, three, where's my camera? Whoo, three. That's simple. You got to remember the relationship between yourself and A, yourself and B, and B and C, or these two. So that's just three relationships you have to kind of keep in your brain. But if you have four, all of a sudden you got one, two, three, four, five, six different ones. If you have five, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine. Yeah, it just explodes. And so it's pretty clear, as the number of of animals in a social network grows, the number of relationships that you must keep track of explodes exponentially. Okay. So primates might be social, yeah, very social, but humans are ultra social. So that 150 that we saw this notion of the based on the neocortex ratio, they found if you go around the world to different places that use clans, a clan is about 148.4 or 150. You find that 150 has shown up in a lot of cases in many, many, many military units. That is, a company equals 150 soldiers approximately. And the logic being 150 is about the capacity for what a human can work with. That is the number of relationships that they can manage before it gets out of control. So they did this fascinating study with these primates. They used chimpanzees, orangutans, and little babies. Okay? And they had them do tasks, either problem solving or social learning. Okay, one of the two. And you can see when it comes to problem solving in more of a physical domain, and if memory serves, it involved making some pipes fit together. I think that was the study here. And what happens here is in the physical domain, the chimpanzees and the humans and the orangutans are awful close to each other, awful close. But if you have demonstrate a task that is more socially based, it's pretty clear that the human children far, far, far outshine the chimpanzees and the orangutans. However, take a look at all of those dots over the little human baby's head. Those are what they call outliers or data points that are outside the error, margin of error. Yeah, duh, that's what it is. There are data points outside the margin of error, and there's a big cluster of data points outside the margin of error. Okay? So human beings have universal problems, right? You know, they got to eat, they got to find shelter, they got to stay safe. Each culture solves them in their own unique way based on what natural resources do I have, things of this nature. Therefore, we look at this and say, you know, our solution is good, theirs is bad. And it's like, I don't know. Got to kind of remind ourselves about the cultural universal thinking versus relativistic thinking.